You believe in miracles? We got Fizzle in the house. Fizzle, what's good, man? Fizzle, glad to have you here.
Let's go. This the South Harmon Podcast. Glad you here today. Hit that Patreon link if you here to stay. Dynasty best ball, that's my favorite way. 40 chess trade show, let's make a trade today or check a AMA. You know Adam at the ATM. Mike always in the building, he gon' stay with him. They gon' start every show off with their own trade. Fantasy's a big ocean, they made their own wave. Make sure you tapping in Tuesdays and Saturdays. Tuesday night, Saturday morning, ain't no better way. Hit that notification bell when the news break. Go subscribe right now, don't get the news late. Destination Devi, that's the team. Dynasty football, man, that's my favorite thing. I remember Biggie said it was all a dream. Now people watching on their phones and computer screens. Welcome to the team. Let's start the show.
What's up, everybody, and welcome back into the Dynasty Trade Show. So glad that you could join us. Do us a favor, go down, hit that like button, and make sure you are subscribed because we do have a fantastic giveaway going on. But without further ado, enough of me. The string of hard-hitting guest analysts to come on this show is getting ridiculous. We have a all-star lineup of people who are guest spotting on this show, and it continues with Mr. Bean Counter himself, everybody's favorite Canadian analyst. Drew is in the building. What is going on, Drew? And first and foremost, thank you so much for joining us. This is absolutely incredible. Adam surprises me every week with who he gets on here. So how you doing, buddy? Thanks for popping on.
I'm doing well. This is gonna be fun. Some of these trades you guys pulled up are pretty wild, so I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, man. We we got a good group of patrons that always keep us on our toes with some of the trades that they send in. So I gave Drew the courtesy, sent him the trades ahead of time. So he's got an idea of what's coming. We got 7 trades. But yeah, Drew, we appreciate it. This is DF Bean Counter. Make sure, if you're not subscribed, go check out Bulletproof. Drew, I don't know if you have anything you want to plug specifically before we get into the trades, but I've been following this guy for a few years. Really good process, really good mind. He's got a great group of guys in his Discord. So make sure you go checking him out.
Yeah, no, just Bulletproof FF on Discord, and then we got the me and Jacob Sanderson do the Sweat and Bullets podcast now, and that's pretty much and Twitter at DF Bean Counter.
Yeah, absolutely, man. All right, well, I'm looking forward to breaking down some trades with DF Bean Counter. Drew also, I got put onto Drew from Mike Lou. For those of you watching, you may not go back as far as the OG days, but Mike Lou from Bunk Bed Breakdowns over at BDGE did some stuff with Drew. I got put onto his stuff, and he's got a great process. So we're going to get into the first trade, which, Drew, you may not know, but we always start off with one of our own trades here. So this is one of my trades. We are looking at here, I sent this to you. This is a 12-team Superflex. This is a lineup league. We're starting 9 players. So I'm receiving Lamar Jackson and Brandon Ayuk. Brandon Ayuk, as a matter of fact, it's funny, I just talked to Mike Lou. Mike Lou got Mike and I in on Brandon Ayuk a couple years ago, very early and very high. He had him in his top 10 a couple seasons ago. He got in the shenanigans doghouse, last year, but this year he's really come along strong, especially given all the talent they have over there. So I sent away Breece Hall and the 102 in this class. When you look at the 102, I mean, assuming if Bijan goes at 101, that's going to be your pick of quarterback probably in this class. So that's, C.J. Stroud, Bryce Young, whatever your flavor is. So you're looking at that quarterback swap there and then the difference of Ayuk and Breece Hall. But I'm curious, Drew, I'll let you kind of kick it off. What are your thoughts on this trade and where are you on it?
So when I looked at this trade, it was I can only presume that the fire emblem signifying this trade was due to someone cheering for the Lamar Jackson and Brandon Ayuk side. I thought it was a slam dunk, honestly. I did not even consider the other side of this option. Like it was like 90-10. Like I was nearly 100% in straight away. I think if you're getting Lamar Jackson, you're pretty well getting like 22, 23 fantasy points per game, pretty well plug and play year over year over year over year. And he's probably got many more years to go. And then you're getting Brandon Ayuk, who is like like, honestly, do we really expect? I mean, sure, the rookie. If you were to take a rookie wide receiver at 102, are you expecting him to have a better or worse career than Brandon Ayuk? Brandon Ayuk's kind of what I would hope to get with the 102. We're getting a quality like wide receiver 2 that might have a wide receiver 1 season if things break right. I don't think it's going to happen currently in the current setup, but like if something changes, he gets traded, somebody gets hurt, somebody gets traded, the quarterback play improves, whatever happens, or the defense falls apart and they have to pass a bunch. Like, I think Brandon Ayuk has a path. He has a talent to be a wide receiver 1. I don't think he currently has the path to being a wide receiver 1. But realistically, at 102, we're not talking about a player that is almost guaranteed to be in the running for wide receiver 2. We're talking about a player that we hope could be a wide receiver 2 one day.
Right.
And at that point, it's pretty easily like I would still probably prefer the 102 to Brandon Ayuk. Don't get me wrong.
Sure.
I think that would be a foolish trade to make straight up. So don't do that. That's what I'm saying. But yeah. And then Breece Hall compared to Lamar Jackson, like Breece Hall's running back. I don't know that he's actually going to matter to the level that Lamar Jackson does at any point in his career. And we're dealing with substantially more injury risk and substantially shorter shelf life. So to me, it's just Lamar Jackson, and then everything else is kind of whatever.
Yeah, you know, it's funny. I'm going to pass it to Mike because I'm sure he's got thoughts too. It's funny you brought that point up, Drew, because there's a patron of ours in our top tier, and I love the guy, T-Rock. He was at the expo with us, but we had this conversation with him. It's funny you laid it that way because we had this conversation with him like a year ago at this point, and Mike staunchly was like, "No, I don't want Jordan Addison over Brandon Ayuk." And right now, a lot of people have Jordan Addison as the top receiver in this class. So here's the thing. You probably right now, Dynasty values, the youth movement, all the rookie hype. Sure, Jordan Addison, if you want him over Brandon Ayuk by a hair, that's fine. But the reality is, Drew just laid it out exactly like Mike explained it. I love that we're starting off this way. Brandon Ayuk's situation hasn't been the rosiest. He had the great rookie year in the back half, right? He started coming alive. He's been in the doghouse. He's had some times where he hasn't been all that great. But if you look at last year, you look at some of his highs in his rookie and sophomore year, guy's been really good. This has been with Jimmy G, with Brock Purdy. He's never even got a chance with Trey Lance. And there's all that other competition there. There's George Kittle. There's, Christian McCaffrey in the back half. There's Deebo Samuel who got paid. Like, what do you expect Jordan Addison to be out of the box? Because we've seen this a lot with the rookie hype of receivers. It's not necessarily all as glowingly as we think. So I think that's a great point. But, Mike, I'm curious your thoughts here, too.
There's a few things in my life, especially Dynasty life, that I love. One of them being Breece Hall. I think he's fantastic. Obviously, the community loves him. They still have him at Dynasty RB1 until Bijan officially is in the NFL. That is, he'll get bumped out of there. But I also love draft picks, and I love early draft picks. I love the 102. But, Adam, the only thing I love more than all those combined is getting top 8 quarterbacks in Superflex leagues. And you're getting one here. Give me Lamar Jackson. I want him on my team in a start 9 nonetheless, where you need 2 elite quarterbacks in order to dominate your league and to win it every single year. It's really tough if you only have 1. You can get by, but if you have 2, if you can get 2 elite assets, you have a leg up on the competition for years, and Lamar's going to be fantastic for another few years at least. Brandon Ayuk, I mean, it's just kind of an ancillary piece if you really think about it, Adam, and it's one of those pieces that you and I do like as well at the wide receiver spot. So it's almost like you got this guy as a throw-in. I would trade Breece and the 102 right now to move up into the top 8 quarterback spots. And I love Breece Hall, and I love the 102, but give me a top 8 super flex quarterback easily. Congratulations on getting a free Brandon Ayuk, in my opinion.
Damn it. I don't know that I love starting off the show with these guys so in favor of my trade. I will say, though, this. Like, settings for me is a big deal here, right? So there was a couple things happening. The manager here, Horns, knows best. I don't know that he knows best because he's very afraid that Lamar might actually not play next year, sit out, hold out, all this stuff. He hasn't played the last 2 fantasy football playoffs, so I think there's dynasty gamer fatigue with Lamar Jackson right now, and there's all this rookie hype. I think I exploited that because I also had leveraged a bunch of picks, and this is one of the things I want to emphasize: settings and having pick leverage, right? So I had 102, 103, several other firsts in this class, in this league. And also, in start 9 lineup, right? In a start 9 lineup league, this is also 4-point per passing touchdown. I want Lamar Jackson, even if there's injury risk, even if there's contract risk, because he is one of the quarterbacks that can completely break the game open. Like, he's already proven that, right? And when you think about start 9 leagues that are Superflex, you take the quarterback in the Superflex spot out, which are the most high scoring. Now you have 7 spots that can catch up to those type guys. So give me the elite quarterbacks here. If this is like a best ball league and we're starting like 13 or 14, you could maybe convince me the other side is more appealing. But even then, Mike, I think I'd still take the risk of consolidating here to go to Lamar in that scenario.
I like it, man. Back on our original roots, like what we like to talk about is startup value, right? Because it's easy to digest. When people get in a startup, they try to build out a team. You kind of get a good idea of where people actually value them, not so much the keep trade cut where you're just kind of clicking things, and some people just click random shit apparently because that's how you get some really fucked up values. But if I look at it, I mean, shout out to our guys in our Patreon, Koopa and Tom, putting together that ADP list for us, right? And being able to pull it from Sleeper. So good correlation here with Drew. You got a Deco who's been doing fantastic work for you, and I absolutely love some of the tools that he's made, and I use them all the time. So our guys put together something for us, but looking at it right now, Adam, I mean, Lamar's going at the 107. That's fine. That's probably where he should go. Right, he's a top 8 quarterback like we were talking about.
Sure.
You're talking pick 2 is in like the 3rd round range, early 3rd, and Breece Hall is in the back half of the 2nd. So what did I talk about in my startup series? Like if I'm in a startup, I'd love to trade up into the 1st round again and get another top 8 quarterback, and I'm willing to pay my 2nd, 3rd round startup pick to do that. And Brandon Ayuk, I mean, you're getting a guy who's going in the 7th round back.
Is he 7th? I was going to guess he's in the 7th round now. So that's a generic first in value based on startups already too.
If you're in a startup draft right now, you're trading your 2 and your 3. You're getting another 1st rounder, and you're getting a 7th round startup pick back. I do that 100 times out of 100 right now.
Even in best ball, great point. Yeah,
even in best ball.
Any final thoughts, Drew, before we get into the next trade? I don't want to exercise all of our excitement.
Just wanted to quickly touch on. Do you guys value the 102 right now? I feel like the 102 is really kind of irrelevant to me.
So
I don't.
Go ahead. No. Well, I was going to say I value the 102 as this. I think it's going to be the top quarterback in this class, and although I think the market's depressed on that player because like CJ Stroud doesn't pose as much upside people think. Bryce Young's very small. There's very much passing concerns with Anthony Richardson. He hasn't shown it on tape, and then Will Levis, Mike's favorite down there. He's constantly taking mock drafts. Will Levis at the 102. He still has project in his realm of outcomes. The reality for him. So I think it's scary. But the way I'm looking at the quarterback landscape, though, Drew, if I'm not getting one of these top 12 guys, the reason the 102 is appealing to me is like if he's in the top 10 of this class, right, and is a decent landing spot. Like I think because of the scarcity in Superflex and because of the quarterback thirst, someone will highly value one of these quarterbacks, and I don't have to pick who that is today. That's the reason I value 102 probably more than most. But to your point, I think there is right now at least a big gap between 101 and 102.
Yeah. I think you're right. I think the quarterback is probably like pick your poison quarterback, whoever you like the best is going to go 102. I just like the quarterbacks this year are. There's 2 good ones and there's 2 not so good ones, and the 2 not so good ones have more fantasy appeal, but they're also probably not very good in my opinion.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
I don't really want to spend a 102 on a player that's probably good but probably not going to win my league, or a player that might be good potentially someday but also probably could bust and be out of the league in 3 years. And like the 102 just is kind of terrifying for me right now. I'd probably just take I would trade down for a loss of value at this point and take one of the other running backs or something in the middle of the 1st or late 1st.
That's actually a smart play too. I think there's a lot of ways you can play the 102. I'll tell you the other thing, Drew, I think that helped me in this trade was I have 102 and 103. So to your point, right? Like we don't like – I shouldn't say that. There's not a prospect in this class we love at quarterback, right? Like they all have their warts and reasons we don't like them. But I think for the league when they see, okay, like Bijan goes at 101, but Adam, who has 2 quarterbacks already, gets to take the next 2 rookie guys. I think that's what kind of opened this up for me. I think there was pick leverage involved in that. But I'm with you. I mean, I made the trade. You guys, I don't need to tell you why I did it. I'm in. Let me say this. Last point, everyone watching. 102 for me, I am absolutely desperately trying to do this type of move. Like, I want to take that 102 and see if I can leverage myself into the top 8. If I can't, I'll make the pick or trade down like Drew talked about. But if I can do this on rookie hype, I'm getting into that safe group of quarterback. And although people are worried about Lamar, I feel he's safe. So enough about my trade. We'll get into a patrons trade here. So Blitzing Buzzard, staple of the community, Nate Liss, big time member. We have the 101. Speaking of the difference in 101 and 102 here, this is crazy to me. This is a 12-team Superflex PPR lineup. He didn't say how many starters, but it's a lineup, Dynasty League. He's getting Bijan or the 101, right? He's sending away Sky Moore, who at this point, let me give a big shout out to Drew because he put this term, I think, on the map. The face planner. Sky Moore is the fucking face planner of this 22 class, and it's not close. This is the face planner, ladies and gentlemen. Then we're talking a late first, or at least the defending champ of last year, in a mid 24 first. And I like the 24 first class. I like the 24 class fine, but a mid, possibly a late first, so 2 firsts and Sky Moore for the 101. I want people to talk, but I don't have anything to say about this. This is easy. This is easy.
If you are going to trade, you have the golden ticket. Like if you are holding the 101, you have the golden ticket. You need to cash out on the golden ticket. You don't need to sell it for this. This isn't enough to move me off Bijan. Like, give me the world or I'll make my pick. I'm shocked that somebody made this trade. My jaw hit the floor. I had to pick it up. It was embarrassing. I was at work. Everybody saw. I just couldn't even possibly understand why somebody did this. Like, if we go back to 2018 and we look at the Saquon Barkley trades that were happening at that time, you were getting everything you ever wanted for Saquon Barkley before he hit the field. Bijan Robinson maybe isn't Saquon Barkley, but he's not far off. And you should be getting absolutely everything that you could possibly ask for from someone. And a late first and a potentially mid first isn't it. If you're going to trade a marquee player, you get a marquee player back and you get a little extra. That's the only way I'm moving one of these guys.
Dude, that's so well said. And you know what? Let me say this. Like, I'm for, in certain scenarios, trading off of Bijan for a haul. But Drew kind of put it pretty eloquently in going back with Saquon. Like, that's what we're looking at, right? This, like Jonathan Taylor, I know Drew had the debate, generational or not generational. It was.
Where do you guys stand on that real quick?
We're big time JT guys. We're generational. It's just
I'm team generational. I'm sorry.
Come on.
We're team JT, but I think you made a great point, honestly. But let me say this: even if you're not JT generational, which I think is very debatable, and if you're on the opposite end, I'm fine with that. Here's the reality: Bijan's not that. Bijan is today's Saquon. Like, to give you an idea, like, everyone, think about your dynasty teams. Think about what happened this year. The running back as a whole lost more value than any position by a country mile, right? All these running backs got hurt. The running back narrative is terrible right now. 101, think about it. We got 4 quarterbacks that are looking like top 15 picks based on, mock drafts, which could change. But 101 is a running back, and everyone's saying that is so far and away the best pick in this class. In a market where running back is not valued anymore. That's how good Bijan Robinson is, right? Like, to Drew's point, you need to trade. If I'm trading off a 101, which I will do, I'm going to get a haul. But it's not this haul, because here's the thing. If you told me that instead of Sky Moore, I'm getting a top 5 pick or a really good player, a top 30 player in Dynasty, and then I'm getting 224 picks and you're going to play the variance, fine. Sky Moore in this trade for me, Drew, personally, like, to your face planner point, like, he's almost irrelevant. Like, I would liquidate Sky Moore right now for a 212. Like, if someone would let me re-roll Sky Moore, I am so in. So if I'm getting a late 24 first and a mid 24 first, I think the biggest criticism I have of this is, like, I need at least another top 5, top 6 pick in 23, and then the 24 picks as the extra. Like, I'm not taking Sky Moore as the one player that's going to play for my team this year. No fucking way. Forget that. I'm sorry. I'm going to go on a tangent. So I'm going to pass it to Mike before I get crazy.
If I'm looking at it right now, man, and I already got the startup up, so I'm looking at it. I got I'm going to say it. There's 10 guys. There's 10 players I would take before the 101 right now if I'm in a startup. And those are, Mahomes, Josh Allen, Burrow, Hurts, Jefferson, Herbert, Lamar, Jamar Chase, Trevor Lawrence, Justin Fields. End of list. And some people are going to fight you on the Trevor Lawrence or Justin.
Well, you didn't say Justin Jefferson.
Justin Jefferson, man.
Yeah. Justin Jefferson's got to be in there.
I may have skipped over. I'm sorry, Justin Jefferson.
Okay. So I
no disrespect, JJ.
Drew and I are on like, oh no, he didn't do that. Yeah, we're on the same page. It's the top tier quarterbacks and the two receivers. That's it.
So if I look at the ones that are going after, like Trevor Lawrence, Justin Fields, like in Superflex leagues, do I want the 101 or those quarterbacks? I'm going to take the quarterback. Like, I feel good with what I've seen from him. If you want to fight me on it, that's fine. It doesn't matter. The point is the trade value on those guys. Jesus, if you could acquire one of those quarterbacks for just this package, holy shit. But the pick right after it is going to be 101 and it's going to be Bijan.
Right.
So why isn't the trade value the same, right? Like, if you change this with Justin Fields, the lowest one on the list probably for most people, and you say Justin Fields for a late 24 first, a mid-random generic 24 first, and Sky fucking Moore, you're getting laughed out of the building 90 times out of 100, right? There might be 10% of the population. Yeah, 10% of the population maybe is going like, I might entertain it, or I'm a big Sky Moore fan. He's going to turn it around. Just wait. It's fucking insane, man. Like, what are we doing with this?
True.
We're not even at like peak season for draft picks to be traded, or peak conjecture season for how Sky Moore is going to bounce back, or how the 23 class is dog shit. You guys should be pivoting to 24 picks because this is horrible, or anything like that. So this is absolutely fucking wild that Blitzing Buster pulled this off. I want to know how much money he slipped him in the backdoor deal. Like, what else came back? How much cash went through Venmo?
I'm glad you brought that up, because Drew, here's the thing. Me and you play in leagues. You and I don't play in any leagues that I'm aware of, at least for you, that IMT Lou. But I know that Mike, who's constantly getting over people, plays in leagues with IMT Lou. Yes. And if there's anyone that knows what goes on with the trades with him, it's Mike. Listen, here's what I have a hard time with. Okay, you have the 101. You have the prize, like Mike just alluded to, and Drew's already talked about. You've got a top, like, this is going to end up being almost a first-round pick in startups, if not early second. Top 15, top 16 pick easy. Like, explain to me why, and I know there's a lot of 24 hype. Why? Like, honestly, Sky Moore. Like, this is crazy. This is so criminal, Drew. This is so criminal.
I feel like Sky Moore is just like clouding the situation by adding another asset. It's like that guy who like offers you, Trevor Lawrence for Patrick Mahomes, but with Trevor Lawrence you're getting a fourth. Like, that's going to make up that's Sky Moore in this case. And I love Sky Moore. Don't get me wrong. I love Sky Moore. But like, no, just absolutely not. Do not do this trade ever.
Dude, it's funny. Drew, that point is, Ray makes that point a lot, right? You throw a bunch of junk in the trade. You throw a bunch of junk in there. Like, Sky Moore is the junk in the trade that for some reason, probably someone that missed out. MT Lou must have missed out on Sky Moore in a lot of leagues. But you should be happy you missed out on Sky Moore. You don't need to go get him now. The guys, they just had, listen, the last game, we're getting ready. When you see this, the Super Bowl plays the next day on Saturday. Sky Moore last game, everybody was hurt. All the receivers were hurt, and all the focus is on Travis Kelce. Sky Moore didn't even get like 40 yards. What are we excited about? Like, he's got Patrick Mahomes, the best quarterback in the NFL, and he can't do anything. I need to, you know what? Let me get off this trade. I need to get to a new trade. All right. We got a 12-team Superflex PPR lineup league. We got a start 10 here. So another shallow one.
I spoiled this fucking trade already.
Is today, is that what it is? Is this the, go get elite assets season? So this one's at least not maybe quite as egregious, but still not good. Justin Fields is being acquired for Wan'Dale Robinson, the 102, and a 24 first. So, Drew's right. We're right back to the 102, Drew. So here, I'll kick it to you.
Right back to it. Like, this is the same trade, basically. I feel like it's like we're just replacing the 101 with Justin Fields, just like you were just talking about. And
right.
I just want the Justin Fields side of it. Like, okay, so Justin Fields had comically low pass volume last year. Like, comically low. Like, the lowest we've basically ever seen in the history of football. Well, maybe not the history of football, but certainly in the modern era.
Yeah, since we've been watching, right?
And like his weapons were non-existent. Darnell Mooney is not really a thing, and anybody else who was like, I think he was throwing to Dante Pettis for a while. Like Dante Pettis, really? He's still in the NFL? It's wild. Was it Pettis? Am I confused? Was that a different team?
Nope,
No,
she was 100% right.
you're spot on. We're just kind of laughing because it's a correct statement. Sorry.
Yeah, no worries. And then like, so like, if Justin Fields is an incredible rusher, which I think at this point we can definitively say he's an incredible rusher at the very worst. Now we have a guy who could pass in college. He was very good at passing in college. That's probably getting weapons upgrades this year and isn't actually priced in the elite tier yet. I think he probably will be by the time we get through free agency and the draft and they really dress up the roster. But as of yet, he's not being valued there. And it's just like, we probably don't even have to wait to see if he succeeds to cash out on some profit between now and, August. And or we could just wait and see if the guy who could pass really well in college can do it again with NFL quality players in the NFL. It's possible.
Wouldn't that be shocking? Wouldn't that be just shocking if Justin Fields could throw the football, which we've all seen?
It would be totally shocking. And we already know that he's an elite, like not a good rusher. He's an elite, or he's a record-setting rusher.
Right. So and Drew, I think, what that point there, I think needs to be really hammered home because to that point, right? I've talked about this a few times, but I'm going to reiterate it. So when you talk about Justin Fields and the other rushers, like we had Lamar on earlier, right, in my first trade. To me,
Drew, on the show, it's like, dude, you weren't lying when you said you had a
believe me,
row of guests on here.
we got some dope guests, like we got Drew on here, but Lamar has not been on the show. He's been on. He's on my team now. I feel good about that. But
that's close second. Close second.
But here's the thing, right? To me, that's the end of list. When we talk about running quarterbacks, right? So you may think about Jalen Hurts. You may think about like old school Cam Newton. You may think about a lot of these running quarterbacks, even Danny Dimes, who had 700 rushing yards this year. But when you talk about Justin Fields and Lamar, there's a big tier break, and that's an end of list, in my opinion, Drew, and everyone watching, where it's, okay, this quarterback is capable of, on a 10-yard run, which normally a lot of other quarterbacks or skill players would run out of bounds, that pedestrian run can become an 80-yard touchdown. That is absolutely ridiculous in fantasy. Like, even if you don't love rushing quarterbacks in the real NFL, a quarterback that can do that in fantasy, you're talking about 8 points on the ground on a pedestrian run plus the 6 in the touchdown. How many quarterbacks can give you 14 points on a play? Those are the two. That's it. And that matters a lot in a shallow quarterback market. I think that I don't even know what the thumbnail is going to be at this point, Mike, because like I don't know how to make 102 the thumbnail because there's so many different college players, but like we're seeing the 102, like we're seeing the shitheads kind of exploit the 102 value, which is hilarious because it's not valued that high right now. But Mike, what do you say?
I don't know if you get like an NFL draft stage and you have like the Hamburglar, like just stealing. I don't know what the hell you do, but Adam, I'm going to try to do some mental gymnastics and be on the other side. If you look at the picks coming back, they're both Joey Cheese Sticks, and he was the 102. So he was the second worst team in his league this year.
How do you know that?
Down at the bottom where it says what Strav is getting, Stavier, Robs.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Both of these are Joey's picks. So
right.
I don't know. In some crazy world, you might be going, man, Joey is absolutely horrible at fantasy football. He's horrible at Dynasty. I'm looking at an early 24 first next year. And if that ends up being...
What was that?
You're looking at Caleb Williams.
If you convince yourself if you convince yourself you got the top quarterback in this class and Caleb Williams, to Mike's point, go ahead, Mike.
There's a scenario where like I might do this in like maybe 1 or 2 leagues because I know the fish and I know they're going to be horrible. Like we have those people where you're just like, this guy is horrible every single year. Maybe, but it just feels like you're getting too cute. Like even if I try to do the mental gymnastics and defend it, you're getting too cute. I mean, Fields isn't going anywhere like Drew was talking about, and value-wise, he's probably going to get bumped up once the Bears actually do something besides Dante Pettis and Equanimous St. Brown and Byron Pringle and whatever the hell Chase Claypool is or is not. Once they do something around damn Justin Fields and get him some weapons and let him throw the football like you guys were talking about, which we've seen him do in his entire college career at a very high clip and a very high level. It's going up. He's going up. He's already valued as a top 8 Superflex Dynasty quarterback pretty heavily. I mean, it's not relatively close to the group that comes after him. So what makes you think he's going down anytime soon? I mean, you saw him succeed in an elite clip without weapons. What happens when he gets weapons? Logically, you think it goes up. So I think you're just trying to get too cute with it. I'm trying to do my best to maybe make a case for the other side, but I can't fucking do it. It's
all right, yeah.
It's
I appreciate the attempt, and I see Drew foaming at the mouth. But let me say this. Justin Fields, he has the best pick on the board in this entire trade because they have the 101. But go ahead, Drew. I see you foaming at the mouth. What do you got, man? Talk to us. Talk to everybody.
Well, it's just like exactly what you're saying. It's Justin Fields. I want to take a step back because I don't think that Darnell Mooney is necessarily the worst wide receiver in football. I think he's a perfectly fine wide receiver 3 in an NFL offense.
Agreed.
If he's your wide receiver 3, you got a pretty good offense. And Chase Claypool is a perfectly fine wide receiver 2. They're really just missing their alpha. Like if this team goes in and gets DeAndre Hopkins via trade or something and does something special with their 101 pick in terms of like trade backs and upgrading across the board, maybe they get some more offensive line. I don't know. Like I could see an avenue where I'm looking at this offense and thinking, wow, this is like, if Justin Fields take a step forward, this is a top offense in the NFL. Maybe not the top offense, but like a very good offense.
Right. Fantasy friendly. Yes.
And yeah. And then like, again, the 102, like I'm just like, whatever. Like it's valuable. I will take the pick if I have to take the pick, but I'd be perfectly fine trading it like this. I didn't realize that 2024 first was the same guy who finished second last. If he's going from second last with Justin Fields to second last with Wan'Dale Robinson, I think there's a pretty reasonable case to be made that he's probably going to be finishing near the bottom of the league again. In which case, that 2024 first is probably an early first round pick. But we don't know what else is on his team. Maybe he's got a bunch of injured guys that are going to come back and score a bunch of points. Who knows? Yeah,
I think it's funny because Drew, I normally do a really good job of this, but Mike, it's Mike. It's McNutted. There's a reason he's looking closely at the details. So I do see, like, if I'm, I don't even know what that is, stab at Robs, whatever that is. If you're saying, okay, because here's the thing. If we said 24 first and we guaranteed 101, I think we all want the other side.
Yeah, if you're getting 101 in 2024, I'm in on the trade. Great job.
Yes, because you're guaranteeing the top 2 quarterbacks in the next 2 classes and Wan'Dale's a plus. Okay. All right. Now let me give you the opposite side because Mike gave you that point. Joey Cheesesteak's our guy, our patron. He's tapped in. What I'm seeing is this. This is a guy that's tanked, and we talked about picking a direction a lot, right? Last year we did, at least. And I think we talked probably at length about it, but we picked directions too early. To me, I see a person that could have a plethora of picks, right? And it's like, you know what? I'm not tanking this year. Let me go get what I need to win, which is a top 8 quarterback or 2 of them. You may already have another one. That's how you win. And now you have all your other picks. You know what? Here, you take this 102. You take what you think is early and watch what I do with my team and make that 24 pick 112, 110. All of a sudden, this trade looks terrible and you are regretting everything you ever did in life. Honestly, if that's what he did, Joey, I'm giving you a shout out with Drew here. That's 4D chess. That's how you play 4D chess, damn it. So I'm curious to see what happens there, but I like Justin Fields by a mile here. All right, now we're getting into Krusty land. Like, this is Krustyville, Drew. So we're talking about way down in the dumpster here. Our boy, Blitz is showing us a dumpster dive trade here. 12-team Superflex PPR, tight end premium. It's a lineup league. We're starting 12, so we're starting more players. He's basically foregoing some of these later picks in 23. Mike and I talked about how, seconds and thirds especially we want. But, and I know Mike hates Mike White. He hates him some Mike White. He loves Zach Wilson, even though, it's done nothing. Davis Mills at this point, like, he had his shot and it feels bad. But the reality here is he basically said, I'm shooting my shot on these late picks. I'm foregoing them, and I'm taking these quarterbacks that could land anywhere. And if injuries or whatever breaks right, he thinks they're more valuable than any of these, later picks in 23. So, Drew, I'm curious, in Superflex lineup, start 12, what you think of this trade.
Actually, I'm taking the shitty quarterbacks in this one. I I do a lot of work around like draft picks and what you can turn them into, and I think that there's like a reasonable chance you can probably turn that 307 into a second round pick at some point. Just you pick the right player. He happens to flash in the preseason or gets a game. Scores a touchdown in 3 consecutive games, and all of a sudden he's the next dynasty darling.
Khalil
And you can
Herbert
flip
type,
that
right?
307, Khalil Herbert, yeah, for sure. But those quarterbacks, like if they're starting, they're probably startable in fantasy. Like if they end up in a the start, they're not going to be starters. These guys are not going to be week 1 starters. But if their starting quarterback and they're the backup gets hurt, you pretty much know that you can start these players in fantasy football. And I think that counts for something. Whereas, your 307, chances are you don't know that you can start the 307 when the 307 starts hitting. So you're wasting, like, you're not even getting the points from that. Whereas the other guys, you're actually getting the points. And if they get hot, you can probably trade them for a second as well. So
Yes,
I'm just going to
flippability.
take the kind of like ability to know that I can start the player, and then the potential. I think there's roughly similar potential around if you can cash out for a second in between either pick. And then the 404, like we're just taking a backup running back there and hoping that everyone dies in front of them and you can cash out on some projectable volume. And other than that, it's a pretty useless pick.
I think that last point's the biggest for me. I'm going to pass it to Mike because I want to hear his point first. But like 404, I think this class is deep. I think there's a lot of players in this class to like. But when I start getting into the 4th, it's not that I won't pick someone there or take the pick, but that's where I start not valuing at all like that pick very much. I'll take my shot on a random quarterback, shitlord or not. Mike, what do you think?
I mean, I like draft liquidity, not necessarily just for picking players, because like Drew, you alluded to, most of the time you're probably not hitting anything really. I mean, you hope that you can flip them for a round higher, but I just like having it around to tacking on to deals, right? Like, oh man, we're only a 307 away. Here you go, man. Take the 307. Let's get the deal done. Let me move on with my life and get something that I want. But when I look at it, the only other thing that I love more than liquidity, Adam, is taking my shot on quarterbacks. And this isn't a best ball league; it's a lineup league. So you're okay to like stash these dudes on your bench. Like in a best ball league, I don't want to do it with these shitty quarterbacks because they're just scoring zeros like
Right.
for forever. That could be a Dante Pettis who could pop, right? I'd rather pick him up off waivers just to try to get something in my lineup. But in a lineup league, like, let me get a shot on these guys. I mean, there's a greater than non-zero chance both of these guys start at some point next year, right? There's even a chance with like a Davis Mills. I mean, what if Houston decides that, hey, with the Miko, we're going to pass on quarterback this year. We're going to continue to build out our team. We're going to roll with Davis Mills and whatever fucking combination of crap that we take later. Maybe we try to hit a second round or a third round or a 4th round quarterback in the NFL draft this year and maybe kickstart it. Mike White, I mean, he performed at times well against shitty teams. I still think he's got awful and horrible, but what if the Jets don't work out the Aaron Rodgers situation? And what if Zach Wilson really is god awful like everyone thinks he is? And they really do roll out Mike White for a majority of next year. I mean, that's a scenario that could happen. So you're paying a 307 and a 404 to find out. At that point, I think the cost is okay. I'm comfortable with what the Who's got here. Like, I will take these quarterbacks, and I fucking hate Mike White. I think he's god awful, but I would pay the 404 to find out if Mike White's going to start a game next year or not.
And y'all are wondering why Brandon Cooks is asking for a trade. Mike's trying to paint a scenario where Davis Mills is back throwing the football for the fucking Houston Texans. Good God,
just
that
a
sounds
shot
awful.
to the ribs for Texans fans. Thanks, Mike.
Yeah, dude. I mean, literally, we have a shit show podcast, but that is a actual shit show. There's no person that wants that to happen, unless they, Mike's scenarios, right? Here's the thing, for me with this anyway, right? 307, like if you're telling me you'd rather cash out on Mike White for 307 1-for-1, I don't know that that's the best play. Personally, like I think you may have a better chance with Mike White actually starting somewhere for even a few weeks in a spot start than you have the 307 playing. But if you want to do the 1-for-1 there, I'm fine. But like Davis Mills, okay, Mike, Drew, a year ago. Now you're gonna have to find the fish for this. But when we're talking the offseason a year ago, where Davis Mills is guaranteed to be the starter, I saw people trade a late first for this guy. Definitely seconds for this guy. Listen, I am all about sunk cost fallacy, understanding you've lost out. I'm not trading Davis Mills for the 404. Fuck you. Like, I'm going to hold him. Seriously, fuck that. I'm good. I will ride Davis Mills to the ground. He's going to go in the grave. I'm not giving you Davis Mills for the 404. Fuck that. You can keep your damn picks, man. That's where you lost me. Like, honestly, with this trade for the Hammer B side, like, if you're trading Mike, you're going to say, fuck it, I'm trading Mike White for a third. Okay, fine. Davis Mills for a fourth? No. And that's where I think Blitz wins this. Honestly, like, it's a gross trade, but I think that's where the difference is in this trade for me personally.
Man, I'm clipping that audio right there. That is comedy. That is
there you go.
Gold.
See, we needed Drew on to let me really get free and kind of get like Drew, where we're talking about like these roster clogger and these damn face planners. But okay, here I'm curious what Drew has to say about this, because I know he's talked DK Metcalf up a lot. Drew, what do you think here, man? This is another. I don't know what it is. We do, Mike and I do a ton of best ball, but this week it was like all lineup trades. So this is all lineup except for the last one. It's another 12-team Superflex PPR starting 9, so a shallow starter. 112 and a random 24 first for DK Metcalf. So the person acquiring DK Metcalf is sending his 24 first away. I'm kind of with this trade thinking like he thinks he's a contender. But the 112 in this class plus a random 24 first for DK Metcalf. What do you think, Drew?
Honestly, of the all the trades you sent me, this is the only one that I stopped to look at twice.
I knew that was going to be the case. I knew it.
This one, I was like, oh, I think I just want DK Metcalf. Then I was like, wait a second, where's that 24 first going to end up? If it's a locked in, absolutely 112-ish pick, like the team is just a juggernaut, sure, I'll take Metcalf. But if that 2024 first could be a mid first, I'm probably going to lean to the 2024. I love DK Metcalf from the aspect of he's a target monster. The dude is getting like a top 12-ish target share year over year now. He's probably going to continue getting that into perpetuity. I think there's a chance the Seahawks get a quarterback upgrade to, like there's a chance the Seahawks end up with one of the, I think, good passing quarterbacks in this class. And if that happens, then I'm going to be real excited about DK Metcalf in the future.
Right.
But otherwise, like Geno Smith, I think is perfectly fine. I just don't think DK is going to be a monster with Geno Smith. I think he could be a monster in the right circumstance, and the only way they're going to get the right circumstance is if they pick a good quarterback with their early first this year. So
go ahead, keep going. I'm curious to hear.
So yeah, like the 112, if you were to offer me a random 2024 first for DK Metcalf, I'm probably not taking it. If you're going to offer me the random 2024 first and the 112, I like the 112 this year. I think this class is super deep.
Yes.
Like when I was saying I don't like the 102, it's because I like the 112. That's the reason I don't like the 102. I think I'm going to like the guy pick that 112 better than the guy taking out 102. And in that case, I value this 112 a hell of a lot higher than everyone else does. So if I'm getting the 112 and a random 2024 first, I'm taking the picks. If I'm getting two 112s, I'm probably taking DK.
See, okay, Drew, you know what? It's funny you broke it down that way. And watching your content for years, I had a feeling this was going to be the one that you kind of teetered on. And let me tell you, from our experience this year, at least, playing in a shit ton of leagues, talking to a bunch of people playing in leagues, and ultimately Scott Connor and his approach kind of all packaging together for us to learn. One of the biggest lessons we learned, we did a podcast on this, Drew. One of the things we learned this year and we want to apply next year is this. In lineup leagues especially, right? So you probably saw there, Sleeper cut into the trades there because I was pulling it up. I wanted to pull up one of my teams, Drew, and Mike's already heard me talk about this ad nauseum, so he can just stay on mute and just hear it again. But like that league you saw in the beginning, right, where I acquired Lamar for that 102, yep. That's a league where I have a absolute, like going into this year, you would say that's a juggernaut team. He was in the championship last year. He's studded everywhere. He's got picks galore. Like I don't want that person's first, right? But guess what? Variance in lineup leagues is a big deal because as great as Saquon was, Dak got hurt. Matthew Stafford was terrible, right? Kyle Pitts was a fucking terrible points per game scorer this year. Cam Akers was a bust. DeAndre Swift was a bust. DJ Moore, as much as we love everything about him, was all these guys didn't score for me this year, right? So all of a sudden, this team that you think is great produces the 104 pick and isn't in the playoffs. So the reason I want to bring that up is because this is our patron right here, Savage, right? And I think what you're doing here, if it plays out to Drew's point, like if this is the 112, if you're roster constructed appropriately and you have a bunch of outs and you avoid all these crazy injuries, this works out in your favor. The point I want to make for the Jose 25-23 side is this. This is not even a bet against Savage. This is a bet in general, where in lineup start 9, if you have 2 or 3 critical injuries, like we talked about how shallow the quarterback spot is, right? If you have Justin Fields as your only legit quarterback and he gets hurt in start 9, that team may not be very good, right? You don't have to have that many things break right for that 24 first to become a top 6 pick in a class that's really, really good. So all of a sudden, there's more outs. Let me say that. There's more outs on Jose's side. If you are so sure of your team and it breaks right your way, that's a 112 and 112. It's a slam dunk for DK. But I think here's what I want to say. Making this trade in early February, like I don't actually know that I want to do it. And I know that sounds crazy because DK for Mike and I is someone that we feel slept on and is a top 12 easy wide receiver. I don't know that I want to do it for my 24 first just because of variance.
I'm with you, man. I think that's the biggest thing that I learned from last year is pushing my picks in, but so many times we did it too early, right? And it's not even necessarily that I pushed my picks in and then I ended up with an early 23 first. Like I actually had a horrific year. It's just the fact that like later in the season, so if we talk about or think about this in terms of 23, you're sending your 24 pick in February. I mean, who's to say that come November, like right before your league's trade deadline, or maybe you don't even have one, like there's somebody out there who's ready to tear their team down. You have a first, which they covet, and you can't make that move to put you over the hump or to set you up in the playoffs. Or how many of these best ball leagues or these leagues in general that we do, Adam, that don't have trade deadlines? Like how many times would you like to get to championship week or the semifinals still having your 24 first and going like, what can I buy for 1 week to get me the money? Like what can I just forego and mortgage the future in order to try to secure a championship? So I'm with you. I don't want to do it right now. The other part about it is the 112. I mean, you guys have talked about it. The class is deep and there's players that we like at it. But I mean, I've been saying this ad nauseum, it feels like, and just having this conversation over and over again. We are at the beginning of rookie hype season. Like we are going to do nothing but talk about rookies for the next few months. Nothing. I mean, we overanalyze the piss out of the Senior Bowl. We're going to overanalyze the piss of who runs fast in shorts and who jumps high at the combine. That is all we're going to do. And then these teams are going to actually draft players. And we're going to talk ad nauseum about what this landing spot means for this player, how they're going to use him in this offense, and is this good or bad for this guy? This is all we're talking about. So even the 112, the last pick in the first round of your rookie drafts, people are going to be excited, and they're going to go like, I want that guy. I want whoever the hell's there. I want that guy no matter what. So the value is just going to keep going up. This isn't a move that I do in February. If I want DK and I want to make it a push, one, I don't want to include my own pick, but even if I want to get like super fucking aggressive and be like, there's no way this team fails, there's no way I'm going to need this 24 pick later in season, I think even then on the other side of the coin, the 112 is going to be more valuable in a few months, and that's when I want to sell it because you're probably getting DK back, and maybe you get a second-round pick. Maybe it's even a late second in this class, right? You get to hedge your bet a little bit and pick somebody in this class who may increase in value as well, and it's not a 2-for-1. It's more of a 2-for-2. It's a little bit easier, and you don't lose all the leverage. So
let me
give me the pick side, man. I want the picks here.
All right, we're going to do an impromptu first time only on the trade show because Drew's here. So what I want to do, I don't want it to feel like Savage is being dunked on by me because I honestly, like, this trade could still work out, and I said that. But let me give you a perfect example of the same league from the first trade that I made where this type of thing backfired, not to the same extent that this one could. The one difference is this 112 is locked in, right? But let me pull up a trade. I'm just going to pull up the Sleeper app. It's not going to be full screen as much, but it's not going to work. Anyway, You can't see that. Damn it. It's not going to work, this sleeper app. So what I'm getting, though, is I traded away in June, right? Okay, so it's June of this. Think about it in June. So it's June of 2022, and I'm like, I want to get Kyle Pitts. I believe in Kyle Pitts, tight end premium, start 9. I'm willing to overpay. So I sent my 23 first, which at that time I'm thinking it's 111, 112, like Drew's talking about here, right? Now, the fatal flaw is I sent that same manager his pick back in 23. This manager at this time, all he showed me was like, I want to win now. I want both worlds, right? I want to be young and I want to win. He's never shown the capability of tearing it down to get his pick to be valuable. And I had that leverage, and I gave it back to him. Plus, I gave him Deontay Johnson, which ended up being a complete bust. But the point is, I make that trade in June thinking, okay, I got Kyle Pitts. I'm off that late first. Gave him his first back, whatever. If he makes it early, fuck it. Guess what happens? Not only does he make it early, and I have 6 firsts at this time, now I only have 4, he surpasses all the other picks I have. That 102 I just traded, he passed it. He made that his 101. And then my first that I'm thinking is 112 is 104. So I trade the 104, the 101, and Deontay Johnson for Kyle Pitts. I hate that trade. So my point with this is, even if you think you know everything today, you don't. So much will change by the time that this 24 first is declared what the pick number is. And a lot of that's not in your control. So I think I wanted to bring that to people's attention, that it's a process thing. I'd rather hold my first later in the year, and then when I'm confirmed that it's a playoff team, a later first, now I'll push it in. You push it in now and things go wrong, you have no outs. Go ahead, Drew. I see you talking.
Well, I was going to say, this is something that I think is often overlooked in the Dynasty community, is the timing of trades. Mm-hmm. I'm probably not making this trade, even though I'm saying I like the DK Metcalf side if it's a 112, 112. I'm still probably actually not making this trade in my own league, because I like to hold the draft picks, because I feel like, A, I'm really good at drafting rookies, so the draft pick's more valuable in my hands than yours. Maybe not you guys, but my league mates' hands. And then B, we have a very long track record of being able to spot the players that are probably going to be terrible. And once you remove the players that are probably going to be terrible, the rookies I'm talking about, the remaining players are exceptionally safe. Like, among the safest assets you can get in all of Dynasty Fantasy Football. So if you're going to have draft picks and you're going to draft the players that don't suck, we don't know if they're going to be good, but we know they're probably not going to suck, other than Sky Moore will take the L on that one. But most often we can pick out the ones that are going to suck, and we don't pick those guys. When you leave the rest
at wide receiver,
when we leave the rest of the guys in the pool, we're probably getting a player that's at least going to maintain his value and possibly hit a grand slam. Like, sometimes you get Chris Olave or something like that, where they just like skyrocket and it's great, everything is awesome. Then I have another process. So I have my rookie process, bulletproof, like prospecting. Then I have another process I call sophomore comps, where I look at the player's rookie year, his prospect profile, and a few variables from his rookie year. And I build these like comp lists. And it's like, well, here's all the players that did what this guy did. These guys have followed all the same journey. And when you look at that, we pretty well know everything we need to know about these wide receivers at that point. And we can just get in or out and get in or out on those players at that point. And we've taken the grand slam swing. Maybe we hit it, maybe we didn't. If we didn't, we still have the opportunity to get out for a profit. And then I'm going to take those players and I'm going to trade them, the guys that I don't think have the really high ceilings. Like George Pickens is a guy who I had a really high grade on. I had him a bulletproof wide receiver last year. Now, after his rookie year, I'm like, I don't know. I think he's probably good. Like, I don't think he's destined to be out of the league in a few years, but I don't know that he's going to be a superstar. Like, I don't feel like that's his trajectory. And now I can take George Pickens. I've hit the value home run. Now I can just trade him. And I can go probably get DK Metcalf straight up, who I already know has alpha ceiling in his range of outcomes. So for me, yes, from a value perspective, if you wrap it right down to these 2 picks for this player, yeah, I'm probably going to take DK Metcalf if I'm fairly certain that 2024 first is going to be a late one. Yeah, you're absolutely right. We have no business predicting that with any type of certainty at this juncture. But if that's the argument I want to talk myself into, because I really want DK Metcalf, then sure, I get it. But at the end of the day, from a practical standpoint, I'm probably just not making this trade until we're into the season, and I either know that DK Metcalf actually matters this year, which if he matters, he'll go up in price, but it's not going to be a lot. He's already 25, 26 years old. There isn't a huge value ceiling here unless he's actually smashing the league. So I'm probably just going to be able to pay a little premium on DK Metcalf to get a really good player on my team if I want him in season. And I know he's healthy, and I know that Geno didn't turn into a pumpkin, or I know that the rookie quarterback didn't come in and tank his value. And like we just have a whole lot more information when it comes to actual point scoring season to make this type of trade in the season is where I'm coming from.
Either Drew's watched our shows or he's in lockstep with us, because Mike and I have talked about how Geno's turned into a pumpkin 10 times on this show. Let me say this, though. I think we're going to get to the next trade because Drew's point is 100% correct. This is all about timing. And even if you say, okay, now this manager or whoever has DK wants a little more come playoff push, but I know this is a 112 or a 110 or a 109, it's a different conversation. I'd even add a second at that point if I had to do it in that time. What I don't want to do is give away all my leverage here, and when things go wrong, if they do go wrong, which I got news for you. If you haven't played enough Dynasty or Fantasy Football leagues, things will go wrong. You have no control now, so that's the biggest point. Drew hit that was a slam dunk analysis by Drew there. So all right.
One more thing on that.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
I always refer to it as like buying insurance, like in a scenario like that, where you're like waiting to see if it actually happens before you're willing to buy into it. I think of it like buying insurance. Like, sure, I could buy the player with no safety net, and anything could happen, or I could just pay a little extra insurance, and then I'm buying them once I know what happens. That's what I did with Kyle Pitts when he was a rookie. I was not telling the Patriots to go and draft Kyle Pitts, even though I thought he was one of the best, was literally the best tight end prospect I've ever seen. His price was just like, it didn't really make sense. So it's like, even if he's really good, he's probably not going to cost much more once we know that he's really good, like definitively no. And then that's kind of exactly what happened. If you looked at his price throughout his rookie season, he's putting up 1,000 yards and his price didn't really change until well into the off season.
Right. Yeah. You're 100% correct. I mean,
that little insurance later and be happier.
Yeah.
I mean, it didn't work out with Kyle Pitts, but it will.
Right, but the point is, when it's timed correctly, you know a lot more than you do today in early February. All right, so same mindset here. 12-team Superflex lineup, start 9. Liebert's acquiring Treylon Burks for the 111. Let me say this: I know where Mike and I are going to be, so I'm going to start with Drew because I want to know where you are on the two of these things, these assets. Treylon Burks. What's funny, Drew? This time last year, this is the 101. This is the 101. Now we're talking the 111 and 23, which is a deep class, and I like 111 a lot. But so I'm curious your thoughts.
This is a really tricky one. This is another timing one where I'm like, why would I do this trade right now? Like, so Treylon Burks is really kind of an enigma. Like, he is. I think he's a very good player. I think that's, in my mind, that's definitive at this point. Like, I think he's going to be a really good NFL player. Is he ever going to truly matter? AJ Brown didn't even freaking matter in this offense. He's topped out at like 17 points per game. If Treylon Burks is AJ Brown and he's only going to score 17 points per game, I'm not that excited about Treylon Burks. I'm excited at Treylon Burks. If I could get AJ Brown at 111, I would love to do that. But I'm just saying, like, we don't even know that he's AJ Brown yet. And A.J. Brown is one of the best wide receivers in football, and he still didn't matter because the Tennessee Titans passed so few attempts. So When I'm looking at Treylon Burks, I'm looking at it being like, well, I don't really have a lot of ceiling here. And then I'm looking at it and being like, and who knows what's going to happen with this team in the future? Like, we could go from a very bad team or a very bad passing offense to also a very bad rushing offense in no time. We have Derrick Henry, who's like 100 years old. The bottom falls out on running backs overnight. Like, you never know when the switch will get flipped. So with Treylon Burks, I'm like lukewarm on him, but I love him at 111 prices. So then my instinct is, well, I want Treylon Burks because if I draft a wide receiver at 111, I'm hoping that I get Treylon Burks. I'm hoping like Treylon Burks is probably going to be a wide receiver 2 into perpetuity. He's probably never going to be the wide receiver 1.
Right.
So if I'm drafting a wide receiver at 111, I'm thinking the same thing. I'm hoping I get a wide receiver that's a wide receiver 2 in perpetuity that may never be a true superstar. But as it stands right now, this class is so freaking wonky. Like, we're getting, according to like mock drafts, we're getting good running back prospects at 111, and that never happens.
Right.
That never happens.
So Drew, that's also, let me say that's also, I think, a product of how people value running backs, and they're burned from these last couple of years, right? So now they don't want to take running backs. So all of a sudden, let me say this, Drew. We did a mock draft today on AMA earlier where Gibbs fell to 109.
Like, that's just crazy to me. So so let's say that I'm in that draft. I have Treylon Burks and I have 111 and somebody's offering me Treylon Burks. I'm not making the trade because who knows what's going to happen in my rookie draft. I might be sitting on the clock or might be sitting there with my 111 and 109 is like, hey, anybody want this pick? And I could trade basically nothing to go and get Jahmyr Gibbs. Like, I'm absolutely going to do that. The chances I can trade Treylon Burks for Jahmyr Gibbs, I think, are pretty slim.
Damn, I'm glad we had you on because you're hitting a lot of points I like to make. I'm going to let Mike go because I see him sitting there ready.
This is tough, man. You know, we just talked about on the 40 podcast about liquidity and how it's good to be flexible and all this. This is so tough because Drew's bringing up the point. Like, if I look at it flat out, like, I'm going, man, I will take Treylon Burks over the reroll at 111 because, like, I'm hoping I get somebody who's hyped up the same way Treylon Burks is. There's still people who still think he's the best wide receiver in this class, this past class. Like, they're still like, well, we just haven't seen it yet. Still getting pushed up on the hype. I look at where he goes in ADP, like he's a mid-sixth. The crazy thing is he's going right next to Jamison Williams, who did fucking nothing. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. Did even less than Treylon Burks, which is crazy. But, Adam, if I'm looking at it, I just go by like ADP trends, like what I know. Where did back end first usually wind up in startup drafts? Like, they're usually in the 7th, 8th round.
Yep,
that's just kind of where they always seem to fall. It really doesn't matter what the class is. Historically, people in startup drafts go, the 111's worth a 7th or 8th round. So I think you're getting value on Treylon. I'm probably going to take the Treylon side, but God, that part of me who still goes, man, just take the pick liquidity. Because like Drew's talking about, you know, right up until you're on the clock or actually have to make the pick, there'll be people who are doing all kinds of stupid shit. There's people who might send you Treylon plus for the 111. And in that case, I'm getting a 2-for-1. Fuck out of here. I'll take that all the time. But, I mean, I've seen wild shit happen in these drafts. We see wild shit happen in mock drafts. We go into every single Dynasty, like, rookie draft that we do going like, man, I think this is the way that it's going to go. And, like, last year I watched Chris Olave go at the 102, just out of nowhere. Like, I was high on Chris Olave, but I'm like, holy shit, somebody took him at the 102. And there always seems to be a player who falls there. There always seems to be some wild shit that happens in the back end. You know, like getting Mac Jones, a first-round NFL drafted quarterback at the 202 or 203 in some of these drafts was unfathomable to me. Even if you didn't like Mac Jones, you're going like, this is a top 15 quarterback taken in the NFL draft. He needs to be in the first round somewhere, and people still didn't want to do it. So I got to make a decision on it. I like what Lieber did. I mean, Bert's our guy.
Yeah.
Shit, man. I think I just want the pick, though. Like, I feel good. Just give me the pick.
Well, okay. All right. Because Mike's he's waffling, right? He doesn't know what to do because it's tugging at his heartstrings on both sides. Let me talk about it from a process standpoint because I think everything both you said is really appropriate and applicable. But so let me say this. As a person, and Drew, you may not know this, like I have, I bought into the, DF Bean counter hype. I bought into the Ray GQ hype back in 2 years ago, right? So 2021, 2023 is it. 2023 is everything you want. I have a portfolio that is stockpiled in 23, right? So on these teams where I have a lot of liquidity and I have a plethora, I'm talking a quarter of the picks in that first round or more, I may look to cash out on this, but I'll tell you this, it goes back to Drew's point. Timing-wise, I'm not doing it now. I want to know what's going to happen. There's so much different things that can happen. Like, I think this is a point that Drew's talked about already in this that I've stressed constantly. Dynasty timing is everything. What's happening right now? The Super Bowl is about to be played on Sunday. We have weeks and weeks and weeks until people start feeling the thirst. I want football back. But what happens? The Combine, the NFL Draft. You know what's going to happen then? The outrageous ascension of these picks, these values at the 23 class. This class is so deep at running back, which poses a unique situation given the landscape, right? In years past, like Drew was talking about with the Saquon Barkley trade, running back, everybody wants running back. It's quarterback and running back. Now people don't really want running back outside of Bijan. So what's going to happen? 109, 110, 111, 112, even these mid-seconds. Like you could land a running back that could end up as a workhorse for a few seasons. That's crazy that you didn't used to be able to get that in the old markets. So now my running back affinity and love is like, yo, I'm not getting off this 111 just yet. Because I saw Gibbs at 109, like Drew was just talking about. If I can go from Burks to 109, which is going to end up being Gibbs, and I got to throw in, some fluff third piece or fourth, that's crazy. The other point I want to make about this is go ahead and look at some of the earlier trades here today. Like you're seeing already in February what 102 can be leveraged for. When 23 is at its peak hype, like these guys are running insane 40s. Everybody's, the crazy next, AJ Brown, like, he's alluding to. All of a sudden, 111 is going to be this crazy pick. Someone might give you more than Treylon Burks. So, to Mike's point, like if I'm looking at this pick and it's what I know today and it's not like a overly glowing prospect and it's in May, it's after the draft, okay, fine. I'll take Treylon Burks in that scenario. But if I'm going to leverage my liquidity that I've built up, right now, 111, I don't want to take this for Treylon Burks. As much as the 1-for-1 tells me I want Treylon Burks, process-wise, I want the pick. I want all this value that's going to continue to build until, honestly, like all throughout the summer. It's going to just keep building. So it pains me to say this because Mike and I love Treylon Burks. I think we're hearing that Drew likes Treylon Burks too, but this is a process show. This should show you 40 chess. Like you don't just take this side of, you don't just take that. So like that's it, man. That's the well, not yet. We got one more best ball trade. Go ahead, Drew. Go ahead.
Hold up. I want to talk a little bit more about Treylon Burks because I think he's a really fascinating
Go ahead.
I have already taken the L on Treylon Burks. Last year I had him in the coin flip tier. I argued like day and night with people about him being in the coin flip tier and not in my bulletproof tier. And I have waved the flag. I was fucking wrong. I messed it up. I'm sorry. He wasn't even good last year. Like this isn't like a rewrite history because he was so good. Like I just got the process wrong and I'm sorry. I used to use something called early declare and I still do. But the difference is my early declare that I was using to determine that Treylon Burks was not in fact awesome was early declare, meaning player with remaining college eligibility. I used that as early declare. What I found out is all the data analysts out there that were hyping early declare, and it is better. It is better than being an actual senior in your final year, but it's not as good as first time early declare. And when I flipped the switch to first time early declare, fireworks in the sky. Treylon Burks is one of the best wide receiver prospects in the game. And I feel terrible. I have led people astray. I was wrong. And I need your listeners to know that I was wrong. Okay. So what happens is I have now changed that in my process. Listeners probably hearing me for the first time in the history. You now know I've been wrong before. I have now changed this. And when I switched it to first time early declare or first time eligible declare, Treylon Burks flips to bulletproof. When I do his sophomore comps now, his sophomore comps is my second year process I was talking about. Right. We take their prospect grade, we take the rookie points per game, we take the rookie year PFF grade, we take their ADP trends. So like, did they face plant or not? That's a big criteria. If you face plant, you basically suck, no matter what else happens. So when you take all that and you run the sophomore comps for Treylon Burks, here are his comps. You ready for this?
I'm at the edge of my seat.
It starts with DeAndre Hopkins, who's pretty good. The second player is Calvin Johnson, and then it gets a little downhill from there. But like Tyler Lockett, Kenny Britt, Sidney Rice, Santonio Holmes, DJ Moore, Christian Kirk, Devin Funchess, Marquise Brown, and then Ruben Randall. There is one player on this list that did not hit a top 24 season in their life, and his name's Ruben Randall. He's probably never going to do it. I think he's out of football at this point. Right. We're talking about a list of entirely hits. Like everybody on this list hits. So if I'm now looking at my rookie year comps and I'm looking at a bulletproof prospect, they don't have a list like this.
Right.
This is a better list than my rookie bulletproof wide receivers have. So if I'm comparing my 111, I'm on the clock at 111 and I'm looking at taking a really good wide receiver prospect and somebody's offering me Treylon Burks, I'm taking Treylon Burks. But if I'm on the clock at 111 and I'm looking at Treylon Burks or say Sean Tucker, and Sean Tucker presumably gets enough draft capital that I care.
Yeah, requisite draft capital, right.
Then I'm taking the running back because the running back probably matters more on a weekly basis than Treylon Burks in his current situation. So it's like a really, like this trade, it was clear to me when you just say, do I want Treylon Burks or do I want 111? It's like, well, I want the wide receiver I have pretty high confidence is really good versus the one that I think might be good. But if we're throwing in, well, maybe we get a running back at this point, or, there's some really interesting tight ends. I'm probably not taking a tight end here, but I could be talked into Michael Mayer if he goes really, really early or something like that. But like if it's Treylon Burks or any wide receiver in this class, I'm probably taking Treylon Burks, which is probably a bit of a hot take, I would think.
Well, you know what's funny though is, see, I don't think that's hot takey today, right? But I think it goes back to the point you made last trade in timing, right? So
yeah.
If I know everything about the 23 class, like if you're in a league, like Mike and I are in these degenerate leagues, the destination Debbie types where we're really going to put our process to the test, Drew, because it's pre-NFL draft. Like we're going to draft 2 weeks before the NFL draft, and we're just like, all the stuff you talk about, right? The process, like what you think about this prospect before draft capital. All right, I may want the sure thing in Treylon Burks, but it's after that. Like if you're telling me we know requisite draft capital, we have all the prospects, all the data, and we can say what 111 projects, or we can even wait till we're on the clock and see what that player is. This trade probably exists then, right? And my only criticism to Liebert is that I think that you might be able to wait for this and still get the same thing on the clock or, the day before. So I think 111 is going to ascend in value. The process bet I think that Liebert's making is this is a guy that's very bullish on Treylon Burks, the prospect. And everything out of Tennessee that we know today is Tannehill's going to be back, Henry's going to be back. So we're looking at the same damn fucking thing, right? Like, okay, great player in a system that's going to kind of hold him back. But in Dynasty, if you're playing long term, what if next year, what if midway through this year, Henry's hurt? Henry all of a sudden falls off a cliff. They also have to start throwing the football. Next year, they have to start throwing the football. The prospect of Treylon Burks could weigh out. But if you see Treylon stuck in that same situation, and all of a sudden 111 is the running back, like think about it this year, right? Everyone listening, think about Dameon Pierce. Think about these running backs that went in the second round. That all of a sudden they're top 10 running backs in this class. If you get to net, to Drew's point, Sean Tucker, you get to trade up really cheaply for Jahmyr Gibbs or whatever your third running back off the board is, and this is considered a top 10 running back, that's going to matter more than what Treylon Burks does, almost guaranteed for the next 2 seasons. So I get it from both sides. I just personally want the liquidity today. So I don't know if anyone had any final thoughts on that before we get to the last trade of the day, best ball. So we're gonna throw Drew for a curve here. So best ball, Drew. So right. So now all of a sudden your whole bench matters. You can't just taxi people. There's no IR spots. Everyone can score. I don't know that it matters in this trade, truthfully, but I just wanted to throw that in there because our boy Zach's getting Kyler Murray. Why are you doing this to me, patrons? Like I don't know how to make a thumbnail for the 102. We have the 102 in fucking 3 trades out of 7. Kyler Murray in the 308 versus Baker Mayfield in the 102. I'll say this: I'm not a Baker guy. I haven't. You see the Brown stuff in the background. I'm here in Cleveland. I think he's a fraud from the beginning. I'll still take him over the 308 and Superflex, but I think the bulk of the trade is really Kyler Murray for the 102. So Drew, I don't want to give you the same thing, but we're going to have to.
Yeah, it's a slam dunk. It's Kyler Murray, and it's not close. And I don't really have any second thoughts to this trade. There's no other avenue in which I'm like, oh, well, maybe actually if this happens, then I would rather it like no matter pretty much what happens in the outcome of the NFL draft and the combine and so on and so forth, I'm definitely almost assuredly taking Kyler Murray in this trade. Baker Mayfield, I still think he might be something. He was decent at one point in time, and I think it's possible that he could be decent again because we do see these kinds of players pop up again at some point. The thing with Baker Mayfield, though, is we're still not talking about high ceiling. Like if Baker Mayfield hits, we're talking about like the QB 12.
Right.
Like we're not winning our league with Baker Mayfield, no matter what happens. He's basically free. So sure, I'll take him. I think he's got a reasonable shot at hitting, but he's just never going to matter. The 102, honestly, is Baker Mayfield as a rookie. Like that's what we're looking at. A player who's probably going to be pretty good at passing the football, probably not going to give you anything on the ground. We're talking about a quarterback 12 if they smash, which is not exciting. Kyler Murray, if he smashes, we're talking about in that Lamar Jackson, Justin Fields, maybe not quite that level of rushing, but like really good rushing. And then also really good passing. And he has a ton of weapons. And it's just like, I fail to understand why people dislike Kyler Murray. I don't care that he plays video games as long as he scores fantasy points. And the guy scored like 23 fantasy points a game every year except for his rookie year. And if you like this year, he didn't because he got hurt in like the first play of one game. You take out that game, he was still scoring like over 20 points per game. And everything sucked this year. Everything in the Cardinals land was terrible, and he still scored 20 points a game. So the dude's floor is 20 points a game. That's like quarterback 5 most years. And I'm just taking Kyler Murray. I don't know. I'm done. I have no further questions.
That's it. I'm just here so I won't get fined. Drew's saying, he's going Marshawn on it. But you know what? It's funny though because see, Drew, I think this is a good point, and everyone listening, this is recency bias. I think happens for a lot of people, and it's hard to put like a real definitive value on what that means in market, right? So think about it this way. So Kyler Murray, right? What are the cons to him? Like, first of all, this guy went 101 after like people were telling him, months before the draft, like just go play baseball. You're not going to be a quarterback that's going to matter because he's so small. So you talk about the frame, but then all of a sudden Kyler Murray, right, gets the 101 draft capital because they make the big Cliff Kingsbury push. So Cliff's out of town, right? But what you've seen is insane rushing upside that has really elevated his floor. But I think the biggest thing is he also has a contract now, right? So Kyler Murray is, in quarterback 6, quarterback 3 his first 2 seasons. 2 years ago, 2021, he was a top 10 guy. This is last year, right? He got hurt again. Now, the hurt thing, the points per game and him being hurt, I think plays into the recency bias. So this is a guy that's small, right? So there's already a lot of naysayers when you check boxes with size, right? They want Justin Herbert. They want 6'6", stature, can throw the football. There's questions about his accuracy. There's questions about his love for football, the video game stuff. There's questions about his size, and then he's been hurt almost every year, even though it's been in different spots. So I think that's what scares people off in recency bias today is there's just a lot of black cloud around like the name of Kyler Murray, whereas 102 presents – this is, I think, part of rookie fallacy, right? We haven't seen 102 fail, so 102 is going to be phenomenal. Like now, okay, sure, C.J. Stroud could be phenomenal. Like C.J. Stroud or Bryce Young or whoever you think, maybe they go to a great spot, maybe they end up being phenomenal. But like we've already seen Kyler Murray, like top 3 quarterback, that I would consider that phenomenal. Like in Superflex leagues, that's phenomenal. We've already seen Kyler do it. The way I look at this trade is I want the sure thing. Like I talked to Zach through this process. Yeah, is there a scenario in a year from now, like Kyler coming off the injury, maybe he doesn't rush as much this next year, maybe the 102 ends up in a good landing spot, whoever quarterback that is. Is there a scenario where this is wrong? Like a year from now, maybe. But I think the process play is I know Kyler Murray is a quarterback that possesses top 10 upside, has a contract. I'd take that sure thing over the 102. And like it's, I don't know, I feel like we're talking the same point at length because it's the same kind of trades. But like if I can get out of these quarterbacks in this class that are upside for a top 8, top 12 quarterback, I'm just going to do it. So, Mike, what are your thoughts?
I mean, it's kind of like the movie 8 Mile in the second to last fucking rhyme where he's battle rapping. Like, didn't you listen to the last rhyme, Meathead? You're saying the same shit that he said. This has been this story of this fucking night. Like, what more analysis do I need to give? I mean, right. I'm sorry, Zach. I'm not going to go on a big, long tangent about how great you are and inflate your ego any more than it already is. Kyler Murray, the 308. End of discussion. Next.
Damn, that's how we're going to end it. Well, It's right though.
That's
Go ahead,
it.
Drew. Go ahead, Drew. Go ahead. I
I
know.
haven't seen 8 Miles in years. I'm filled with regret now. I need to go and watch 8 Mile.
There it
The
is.
movie was awesome. Like I don't know.
Listen, Drew. We're also when you go back and rewatch the if you do go back and rewatch the actual drop of this, one of our listeners, Fizzle Dollars, is a rapper. He put together a sweet intro song for us, and we made a video, and it's gonna be the first time we play it for this. We played it for our AMA, so we got like rap on the mind, and
I'm filled with beats.
8 Mile is fucking a great throwback. But I mean, here's the thing. Like I think Mike's point's correct. Like it was a great line, but we don't need to keep discussing the same shit. Like I'm willing to get off of the 102 if I can get into a quarterback that has a contract that's shown upside. The top 10, 12 guys. Like Kyler Murray to me is that. So I'm happily getting off the 102 for that. I think there's a scenario like Baker was decent in LA the last few weeks of the season. He could end up being a retread quarterback, to Drew's point. Fuck it. I'll take the 308 if that's what it takes for me to get, Kyler Murray locked up for the 102. So I don't know, Drew. I know you said you're out of here next. You're here so you won't get fined. I don't know if it seemed like you might have one more final point to make on this trade.
No, I like on this one. Like I said, it's just there's no upside on the other side of the trade. Like the Baker Mayfield and 102, I feel like they're both like maybe we get a top 12 season, like, and it will be QB 12, which just doesn't move the needle when it comes to winning or losing your league. Like if either of these guys hit, we're talking about Jared Goff this year.
Yeah,
like Tom Brady 2 years ago threw for like 4,500 yards and like 40 touchdowns. He was QB 10. Like if you don't rush, you don't score fantasy points in today's NFL. And Baker Mayfield doesn't rush enough. And the 102, neither of those good quarterbacks rush. And the ones that do rush have exceptionally questionable passing profiles.
Yeah. I think, you know what? I'll say this. CJ Stroud, I think, showed some rushing upside in this last national, the college football playoff. But to your point, right? I think he has rushing upside, but it's not Kyler Murray. Kyler Murray can go 2 touchdowns, 100 yards on the ground. Like, yeah. I like CJ Stroud's rushing upside, but it's 30 yards. It's not this level of rushing upside. So Zach, you know what? We're going out of this trade.
You know that Simpsons gif where it's just like stop. He's dead.
He's already dead. He's already dead.
The 102 is fucking dead, man. We've buried it 17 times. It feels like it's over.
Let me say this before we get out of here and wrap this up. I really hope that if you have 102 shares, that you delete this video from YouTube, that you find a way to not let your league mates see it, because there is no way 102 is going to continue to do this if you let them see what just happened here. We had 7 trades, 3 of which we absolutely destroyed the 102. But, everyone listening, you're leveraging the 102. Drew, man, this was a blast, dude. We had a lot of the same thoughts, a lot of the same processes. Truthfully, like you're one of the guys that I've watched learning about Dynasty. So part of your process is what we talk about. But really glad to have you on the show. Would love for you to plug anything that you have. I know you said bulletproof or any other thing that you want people to tap in, because now that they've listened to the rants and all the process, I think they might want to tap in.
Yeah, man, for sure. It was great it was great being on the show. Thanks for the invite. If you want to, dive into our content, it's on patreon.com/bulletproofff. And then I'm on Twitter at DFBeanCounter. And our podcast is Sweat and Bullets. And it is Sweat and Bullets, a fantasy football podcast. And we'd love to have you.
Sounds good, man. Drew, we really appreciate it. Sorry that, all of the patrons are leveraging 102 at this point. I think it's because of all the shit that Mike and I talk about. So this is all we had for you for this week. But
great.
Mike, final thoughts before we get up out of here, man.
Nah, that 102 sell-off's going to be like crypto just going in the motherfucking tank. It's
it's like it wasn't it today? The Bed Bath & Beyond went like crazy nuclear, and then all of a sudden it's like way below market again. Like just it's a volatile stock. I want 102, but once again, if I'm getting into the top tier quarterbacks, I'm out on 102. You can have it. Everyone listening, we appreciate it. I appreciate all the subscriptions. If you're new to the channel, you find this valuable, like Drew said, go check him out on Bulletproof. Also, go down, hit the subscribe button. If you are currently subscribed and you're here again, let us know what you think of the trades. Let us know what you think of 102. Obviously, we've already told you how bad it is, but put it in the comments. Tell us what you think about 102. Make sure you leave a like for the video, and make sure you're tapped in every single week to this Saturday mornings. We love the 40 Chess Dynasty Trade Show. As you saw in the beginning, Fizzle is killing the game, helping us get an intro that we are honestly in love with. Mike couldn't stop telling me about it all week. So also, if you're looking for a throwback your board, go check out 8 Mile. Mike dropped that in there as well. But we will see you back here, same time, same place next week. We are out of this thing. Peace.